I don't want to sit with you.
Separated, it's
Yeah.
all.
For some reason, I can only see Shannon Campbell's video.
Okay. We still have it for the other positions. Yes.
You wanna just do one tap on it? Good evening, this is the work session for Northfield City Council, October 11th of 2022. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, in the Press of Atlantic City on January 8th of this year. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Roll call.
Roll call, Mrs. Bucci? Here. Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mr. Leeds?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Here.
And Mr. Chow.
Here.
Mr. President?
Thank you. We'll move right on into the committee reports. Councilman Deweese?
Thank you, Council President. The only thing I have tonight is Buildings and Grounds, the stair project that the football score tower has started, probably a couple weeks away from being complete. And in addition, I am also working on getting quotes, should be one coming by the end of this week, for the front pillars out front of City Hall. That's going to become the next priority. Concerned about that, especially weather change. That's all that I have tonight.
Thank you. Councilman Notaro?
Thank you, Mr. President. Additionally, I was out at this, the fields, and I saw the stairs were underway, and I'm very pleased to see that. That was, a long time in the making, and thank you, Greg, for that. Also, the snack bar roof is complete, and that came up real well, too, as well. FAN last week held their annual free basketball clinics. A great success, good big turnout once again. Also, tryouts for travel basketball will be held on the 23rd, the October 15th, the 23rd, and the 29th. Also, Fan got a big, generous donation from Exelon, Chris Kennedy. So I'd like to thank Chris for that as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Leeds.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Councilman Deweese. I guess it was Saturday, early afternoon, the fire department was prepping for their car show and they realized that their trash wasn't picked up. I called Greg and asked him if there's anything we could do. And Greg came over and took care of the issue. So I want to thank him for that. And the fire department was very appreciative because they had an overflow of trash. And with their car show the following day, it would have been a little bit of a problem. For the EMS, it looks like we had 84 calls in the month of September. I know Mary and I discussed this a little bit via email. It looks like 32 of the 84 were exceeding their average response time. When I spoke with Ms. Vera, they're being called again outside of town. Quite often, I don't have the numbers, how many times they went out of town. Ms. Vera didn't provide that information to me. The Borough Council is working on getting it for me. But we had 12 animal calls where they came. Other towns came into the city. The fire department had 27 calls last month in September, with an average response time of 4 minutes from the station to the scene, including all apparatus on the location, which is pretty impressive. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Leeds.
Oh,
Yes.
great, I'm sorry, great job to the Alliance in Shannon for trunk or treat.
Oh, great. And Councilman Smith.
I have nothing really to report, nothing changed since the last meeting. We have the Little League meeting is tomorrow night. So that's the monthly Little League meeting. Next Board of Education meeting is the 24th, Monday the 24th. That's all I have.
And Councilwoman Bucci.
Thank you, Council President. Insurance and safety, I have no report on that. Library, I have a meeting on October 13th. Economic Development Commission, all of council should have received their invitation to our event on October 26th. Rami, I'm going to give one to you too. Rami,
I'm sorry.
I'm going to give one of these to you too. It's for Economic Development Commission. We're having a launch event. With regards to Municipal Alliance, Trunk or Treat was a huge success. Thank you to Shannon and Mary. There was our police department, there was a huge presence of the police, and they engaged with the community. It was a wonderful time. There was 800 children and 25 vendors, so it was a really fun night. Our next event is a gingerbread house making in November. I will have to get the date for that, and then Coffee with a Cop, and then the bike rodeo in the spring. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I have nothing to report from Finance or the Senior Citizens Committee. Moving on to the work session, ongoing topics. Route 9 drainage,
I think at this point we should take this off because
it's not, yeah,
yeah, it's not something we're gonna be dealing with. And the other thing, we're still waiting for the county. I met with the county engineer today. There's 2 other drainage lines they found, so I need to put them on the map so we can get that, agreement done between us and the county.
okay. And we're still pending on the auction of land, and letters have been sent out to the various agencies to see if they were interested in building habitat or something similar. Any discussion on the sign ordinance?
Yeah, I had sent out some additional information. I looked up 2 similar towns as far as retail frontage that Northfield has, Brigantine and Summers Point. Brigantine allows feather flag limited to 2 for street frontage and only permitted during business hours. In Summers Point, flags are not allowed in the right of way, and no, I don't like that flag. No more than 3 flags per commercial lot, and you may not occupy the site triangle. So there's not a lot of,
Sorry.
there's not a lot of regulations, you know, in those other municipalities. So, I mean, I guess it's a decision what we want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Mayor Chow asked me to take a look at what Linwood does, and Linwood has like 1/10 of the retail frontage that Northfield has. If
Yeah.
So is it the flag signs that are the big issue?
The flags, the flag signs and the feather signs. The feather signs are the ones that are.
Just like,
Is that a
Look,
flag sign?
that's a, that's
No,
a,
this is,
no,
this is the
no.
wavy man. They're
That's the
totally
wavy
out.
man.
What's a
We don't
flag?
They're
sign?
totally
Feather
out.
sign
They're,
is like
they're
a-
out. They're not
like-
permitted.
Flag.
It's like a blade, right? And then
Yeah.
the flag sign is just a flag.
It's just a flag.
How about during
I
the
think-
hours of operation?
They don't take them down. They leave them up.
So that's something.
I guess
that's
you'd have
something
to
you're gonna
enforce, yeah, that's
that.
gonna be that's gonna be tough to enforce.
And, you know, let me just say that, you know, when we had that storm or high winds, you know, but there's always that potential, and this is, them coming out or being ripped and so forth, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Can we put some sort of restriction for, like, wind, the excessive, 20-mile-an-hour sustained winds, not sail those
I
things?
mean, they're gonna wanna take them
Just a
in.
thought.
You would think that they're gonna take them in anyway, right?
But
No,
I don't know.
no.
Even though it's common sense, we probably should put something in there about that. I agree.
Yeah, but what are
Common
they,
sense? Really?
Yeah, no, I mean, they should, no, they should, I mean,
I still think you should take them in.
they're not inexpensive. I mean, if they leave them out in weather like that, they're gonna be gone. So it makes sense, I would think, to put it in the ordinance, some type of requirement as to that.
You know, my only comment to everybody is when you're contemplating all these issues, you have to think about the enforcement prong of it.
Mhm.
You know, there's nobody gonna be out there with a wind meter to say, the wind was 19.9 miles an hour as opposed to 20. So just keep the enforcement. How are we gonna prove that they're in violation if they're in violation?
Right.
That's all.
It's the same concept as, if
Maybe
they
not.
have them out at night when they're,
If there's a potential hurricane, or if there's a hurricane, or, whatever.
Well,
I guess there's always potential for a hurricane,
You know, all right.
you know?
But then we don't
That's-
put it,
that's the
then we,
problem.
yeah, I
That's
see
the
what you
games that
so then we
lawyers
don't,
play.
so then we don't put in something like that in there.
Yeah, just
If
think
there's,
about the
if their signs
enforcement.
get wrecked, their
Well,
signs
wha-
get wrecked, then they have to replace them.
what if we just had something in there, if the sign injures someone, it's your responsibility.
Well, it is anyway.
well, I would
That's
think,
typically- That's part of it anyway. I mean, if the sign gets blown out and causes
They're the one that put it in the ground. They-
you know, and we've also had situations where people, when our code enforcement would go there and tell them that, right, currently, take the sign down or flag down, we've had cases where the owner says, well, I need people to take it down, and I don't have them available, and they'll take it down tomorrow, or whatever it may be. So, you know, there's always gonna be, as our solicitor said, there's always gonna be excuses that they're gonna bring forth.
Sure.
There's excuses for everything.
I understand that, and that's how, and in terms of the enforcement, you know,
But if this, I think it's a goodwill issue, because it's a good, this is gonna help our businesses do better. They feel that it's going to
yeah.
help them do better. I think it's something that we should consider.
I don't know, I think that's an arbitrary, you know, statement that they're gonna do better. I mean, you could have all kinds of things that you could say can do better, you know, so it's another form of advertisement, it's another form that catches the eye. Are we thinking about the safety issue? What about just, you know, when we have blinking signs, or we have painted signs on the side of the buildings? You know, my point is how much can we do? I mean, I feel, and I've gone on record that the city of Northfield has been very liberal in their signage. And, you know, the sky's the limit when you talk about these kinds of situations, and I do understand that, but with all due respect, I don't think an additional sign or these flags are going to create more businesses or more patrons to a business. If a business has a reputation of something that is good, people are going to come regardless of signage. I mean, look at the Atlantic City Country Club. I think all of us will contend, I mean, this is going to be an arbitrary statement on my part, but I live across the street. You know, I see every week cars are packed under that parking lot there. And, you know, Atlantic City Country Club had come before the planning board and said they needed a sign, an LED sign to attract the businesses and the advertisement. I don't see them losing business.
I think they changed their business model to
Well,
more-
and
to
that's,
more banquets.
you got it, exactly, thank you.
If you look at the shopping centers on Tilton Road,
Yeah, I mean, we're only
Most
talking
of-
about Tilton Road and
Yeah.
New Road.
I mean, most of them, I don't wanna say that they're in disrepair, but they're not. Trying to think of a nice way to put it. They're not beautiful.
But whose fault is that? That's not us.
Right, but
Wouldn't
I'm
say
not
that.
saying it's us, but if we need to do things that are business friendly to our business community. If they're putting a flag out there because the person that owns their shopping center doesn't have signage that brings attention to their building and they wanna spend the money to do it, I don't see the problem with it.
But that's not our problem. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but, you know, just because a business is tucked way behind because of the structure of the building itself, that's no fault upon the city, nor does it put the onus on the city that we have to make and bend rule, and not just say bend rules, but make such accommodations that may be distracting or may not be fair to other businesses who may not be able to afford an LED sign or may not be able to have
That's-
the frontage.
But that certainly isn't our,
Yeah, that's definitely.
Exactly.
but what Carolyn's saying is, and I don't wanna put words in her mouth, but the way I feel about it is, we as a city would like to make it be more friendly to the businesses, to help them. If they succeed, we have more businesses, we have less closed businesses, businesses that do close for whatever reason, they just retire, then we'll get replaced sooner if Northfield is more welcoming to the businesses and they're able to do well. If they succeed, we succeed.
And
if
I
we
don't,
succeed, they
and I do
succeed.
not disagree with you, Council President,
Yeah.
but I'm going to say this again. I don't have any problems with flags and banners, but I don't feel that it is to a point, and I'm just looking down the road or with an open eye here, the potential that we have no kinds of language right now that stipulates the amount of signage, and I say signage, banners, and so forth. I personally, and I've gone on record, I don't want to see Las Vegas style, I don't want to see flags and banners all along Tilton Road, all along New Road, to make us look like, I don't know, circus or whatever it may be. I haven't heard anything of types of restrictions on how we will apply these types of signages, in terms of, you know, the conditions, where we put them, how many. I know we talked about, you know, at a shopping mall, you know, one business could have it for the first month and so forth. That's the only thing I've really heard. So and I said this thing with LED signs when I was on the planning board, you know, I don't have any problems with signage, but we gotta be careful about how it's been taken. Right now, with all due respect, the LED signs that, a lot of them that are in Northfield right now are in violation to what was the language stated in terms of the square footage. And unfortunately, it was let go. And I think it'd be very, not wrong on my part, or wrong on my part, to say, well, let's go after these signs that now have been illegal for several years now, if not more years. It's not fair to them. But we have allowed that, okay, for whatever reason. And the only reason why I know this quite clearly is because I was the one who originated the language for this signage and square footage for LEDs. And unfortunately, as I said, it's gone to wayside. My other concern is to make sure that if council should move forward on whatever kind of advertisement signage, that the language is quite clear, and that whoever is the code enforcement agent or whatever agent is involved understands what the language is and enforces it. And as our solicitors pointed out, one of the key issues here is the enforcement. We don't want to let this go to the wayside. You know, I've been through a lot of council administrations and things change, of course, but, you know, people forget. And if I may just say this, not to tag this along, but we had a situation at the planning board Dr. Levitt brought this up with Mr. Saganis, who made an application for the planning board on another issue. But his signage that he just recently put up, there was, it's illegal. He did not come before the necessary or did the necessary mechanism to get the proper permit. Now, when I say proper permit, he did get a sign permit to put up the signage. But in terms of the other aspects of the code enforcement, of the type of signage and advertisement, we don't have, and I just learned this just at that point at the planning board, we don't have the mechanism of who is supposed to do it. It's not Rami's responsibility. He's responsible for the setbacks and so forth. And our code enforcement isn't doing it either, because he's not responsible. So we can't let this kind of violations go about. And with all due respect to Mr. Saganis, he paid over $70,000 for that LED sign. And for us to say, well, take it down because it's illegal, I think it's not good business, if you're talking about business friendly.
I agree.
But the mechanism is not there, and the enforcement is not there,
And we have to put that in that.
and something has to be done.
All right, we've gotten completely off the
Yes.
topic. Here's my suggestion, and I'm sorry, 1 second. Ride through Summers Point, ride through Brigantine, and you let me know if there's a flag lining every single street that
It's
has
not
a
gonna happen.
business. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
because that's your example. They've had those ordinances in place for years. There's not flags on every corner, there's not 15 flags in one building, there's not tattered anything. They want to keep their communities nice.
Well, there are tattered signs.
In Northfield, there's.
No, in Linwood,
I'm not
on
talking
the
about
road.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
Mary
about
had
Summers Point.
did done some research
Sorry, Mary.
on the sign, on the LED sign, I think.
It's not research. If you're all looking at changing the signed ordinance, I encourage you to read the entire section 215-113. There's no zoning requirement, none. The onus is 100% on the construction official to ensure that all of the sign rules are met. So I think that's the issue.
Right.
The construction official requires zoning approval, so Rami issued a zoning permit. Code doesn't require it.
Are you talking about the LED one?
Any signs.
Any sign.
There's no zoning approval required in our code for a sign unless it's a sandwich board. That's the only sign he approves. So if you're going to look at this, I encourage you, please look at it and change it to have approvals that make sense
Okay.
and a permit process that makes sense. Because right now, Rich Stevens is the one who approves every single aspect of compliance for a sign. So Mr. Saganos did exactly what he was supposed to do. He got a construction permit.
And I did say at their last city council meeting that if we're going to go move forward, there should be some mechanism of a permit in that respect.
I think that's ridiculous.
Well, there has to be something to, there has to be a mechanism so that someone doesn't put something up with the assumption that it was good.
Yeah, and that's what Mr. Saganis thought.
Yeah. Well, on all the other ones, I think we talked about those. This is the last piece. We can have something together for the next meeting to decide on. Okay, moving on. Is there any update to the joint courts? I think we were trying to hear back. There's nothing there?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a monthly meeting, Mr. President, and as far as some of the problems that, or concerns, that they seem to be addressing them, and we haven't had any problems. And if council does have any concerns, I'm more than happy to, along with Councilman Smith, to bring it forward to their meetings. The meetings are during the day, and I understand Mr. Smith is working, but, and I am able to attend, but just to let you know.
When was it, is there another meeting in October, or they already have it October?
They haven't had that yet, they haven't scheduled it yet.
If you could keep us.
Yes,
let
I
us know
certainly
when that
will.
meeting happens.
Yeah, could you
I-
let me know, just
Absolutely.
when meetings take
I guess our biggest concern was the increase in cost and how it was going to.
Right, and I did bring
if
that
they-
to them,
they-
and
yeah.
I'm
I
waiting.
know
that's-
more towns added, but also more labor has been added, so I mean, just wanna know for planning purposes, since we were just about breaking.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Did we have anything to add on the fire pit ordinance? I know there's a draft out there.
Yeah, there's a draft. We've been, our fire department had, recommended that we include or take out commercial properties from the ordinance, which would allow commercial properties to have fire pits.
Oh, okay.
Our business administrator, myself, we, I don't think, every business, should be putting fire pits, at their establishment. It would be kind of silly to allow that. So we have to kind of
Okay.
work out that issue somehow, some way. So, to hone in on, like, say, the country club or, a business establishment like that, that would be more, allowable type of business.
So like not having it in a parking lot and that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. I think there's a few.
I guess those
I
certain
mean,
setbacks, certain
I know
areas.
Mary had some suggestions. I think there's a few key things that we could kind of, make in the ordinance that, wouldn't be too cumbersome, that would.
All right, do we wanna have a committee just to resolve, would you like to
Yeah,
head that up?
For
Anybody
sure.
would like to be on that committee? Help Dave out? I'll go through that with you then,
all right, cool.
and we
What's
can,
for offer now? Don't jump up real quick.
yeah, everybody take a step back, yeah,
Talk to it. Fire department's gonna be involved anyway.
Yeah,
okay.
Did you get a committee?
And we can just get those
Just-
last pieces squared away so we
Yeah.
can put something together. Okay, that resolves all those, or moving on to new business. I think you were still finalizing the grants?
Yes, but there's other also, I met with Tim Jones. We're working on a grant application for pre-disaster mitigation funding. Basically, there's money from FEMA that we can apply for grants. He's applying for a grant for generator for public works and emergency shelter. And we can apply for multiple grants, and we are going to apply for a grant for drainage issues. We have flooding problems, so we're gonna apply for grants to resolve these flooding problems. So the pre-disaster mitigation fund.
Okay,
And those due, the application is due in November 18th. So I had 2 meetings with Tim and Quinn. I'm trying to outline the areas that we need to put in for that one.
okay,
And part of it also, we are going to try to apply to get a grant to map our stormwater system. We have no idea where the drainage system is. Physically, we know the public works have ideas on some of the drainage system, but every time we do a road program, we find a new system that nobody knows about. Either a cistern under the paving or inlet that covered, the manhole that covered, stuff like that.
That's fine, but back in the day, the health department did supply most municipalities, and I believe Northfield also had access to a handheld GPS. So there is somewhere in Public Works, there is some file with a bunch of coordinates.
They did, they said they had, took some shots from some of the inlets, but not only the inlets, you need to know what is going on between the inlets and the pipe goes. And, for example, we were doing some work on, Revere, we found that they have cisterns under the pavement, they're covered. We were able to find them, get public works to look through and, put the cameras, and there's other systems, we don't know where it goes. So that's, that issue is, if there's any chemical spill, anything happens, we don't know where the flows are. And the state or federal government, that's part of their mitigation also. So we're gonna put that application in for a grant to locate that. If we get the grant, we can get that.
Does that tie into flood management program as well?
Locate, yes, it's part of the flood mitigation, pre-disaster flood mitigation.
What's the end game? What are you gonna do with this information?
We need to know if we, so we can maintain it, because we don't know where the drains are. We have a lot of drainage pipes, we have a lot of improved flooding that happens, we don't know where the pipe goes. For example, certain areas, you have pipes, but we don't know if it's connected to any other system.
mean, are we physically gonna put those on a plan showing
Yes.
flow direction? Okay.
Put pipe sizes, so when public works go out to clean systems, they will know what to clean, where to go.
Isn't that something that they need, emergency management? That's one of the criteria, or
Some of it.
one of the things that they suggest
Right.
that we have for, as you said, for hazardous spill, for
Anything that
flooding,
comes into the bay, we wanna know what's
Mm.
going on,
where it's coming from.
or any natural forces, natural water.
So Robbie, what was left of Hurricane Ian, we had some flooding on Shore Road, so Tim called me and asked me to go out there.
Yes.
I met with the county public works people, and they put barrels out in case the police needed to clear. And the gentleman was telling me that between Jackson and Fairway, where those trains are, they go right out to the golf course into the bay. When the bay rises, they just come right back.
That's good.
That's what the gentleman from the county
I
told me.
mean, if you can tell me how the water goes uphill, I think,
I'm just telling you, because I talked with storm covered, and I said, well, they look dirty to me, they're covered. And he goes, well, it backs up.
the system is undersized to start with, and it's compromised somewhere. So the county's aware of the problem, and we're working on having an interlocal agreement, especially with country club members.
Okay.
And they are going to add additional drainage systems to handle the flooding on the shore.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if everyone can refer to the agenda. Approval of the minutes. Councilman Deweese, Councilwoman Bucci. Resolutions 189 and 191 to 194. Councilman Leeds, Councilman Notaro. Resolution, do we need,
Which one?
does it matter which one we do?
One of them is.
195 is not needed.
Yeah.
195, okay. Okay, so Resolution 196, Councilman Notaro, Councilman Smith. And 188, Councilman Smith, Councilman Deweese. Payment of the bills, Councilman Leeds, Councilwoman Bucci.
Excuse me, 190 is taken off?
Okay, pardon me?
190 is taken off?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we have to
Okay.
postpone that
On the advice of council, we're gonna postpone
on the advice of Labor Council.
Okay, thank you.
190.
Thank you.
And, okay, so payment of bills will be Councilman Notaro, Councilwoman Bucci. And meeting notices, Councilwoman Bucci. Okay, at this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Oh. My agenda didn't have that. Oh. We missed that. I had an old work session. I have the other one here. The smoke-free workplace.
Public session's open, do you want to,
Okay, we'll come back to that after the public session.
whatever you want to do, but it's open.
It's open. Okay, we'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter, we ask that you come up, state your name for the record, and observe a 5-minute limit per speaker.
Anyone in Zoom wishing to speak, please raise your hand and I'll unmute you. No one in Zoom wishing to speak?
Okay, seeing no one wishing to speak, the public session is now closed. Just to circle back a moment to the, as I said, I was going off an old work session agenda. The resolution, I was, let's see, Dr. Bob Zlotnick had forwarded this to me and asked us to consider a resolution to ask for 100% workplace, 100% smoke-free workplaces in New Jersey. Right now, there are exclusion, which our casino industry is excluded partially. And he had asked that we consider that resolution to, I know it was being reviewed up at the state, and it got tabled at that point, so.
So it's a support type of
In support of
smoke-free.
making basically the casinos work smoke-free.
Any
Well,
establishment.
all restaurants, everything's already, that's the only one that's been excluded.
On the property, like even outdoor, like
Indoors,
indoors, oh, okay.
yeah, the 2005 is when
Original.
they passed the Smoke-Free Air Act.
Mhm. And the casinos kind of just do it in
Well, they're
areas.
excluded, they've been excluded.
They've been excluded. So you can smoke anywhere in the casinos, or is it? I thought
They
it
have
was like-
designated sections as
designated
part,
areas.
yeah, like airplanes used to be.
Yeah. So I guess,
Are you asking for our opinion on it, or
Yes,
I would support it?
yeah, I mean, I sent his letter as well as a sample resolution.
I read the letter. I would also support it.
I mean, I know it is, yeah, I mean, it is casino industry, but I think that I mean, the question, it still goes to the state, but it's just whether or not we would support that resolution.
Isn't this something Senator Paulson has already submitted?
Yeah, it's sitting at the state installed, so that's, I believe that's why they're asking cities such as ours to
They're asking for,
to support it as well, to try to get Trenton to move forward and to vote on it. Okay, I mean, there's some interest in it. We'll move forward and possibly have it on a resolution for the next agenda. Yeah. Councilwoman Bucci,
Yes.
would you be, are you?
Yes.
Yep. Councilman Leeds?
Yes.
Councilman Deweese?
Yes,
Okay, and so,
to move forward, right?
to move forward with a
Okay.
resolution, yeah.
So we'll just do it with the language as proposed, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the work session now?
motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Are we gonna move? Oh,
We're just gonna switch seats. Let me know when we can start the next.
stole my thunder.
Ready.
Okay.
Good evening, this is the regular meeting of Northfield City Council, October 11th of 2022. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, in the Press of Atlantic City on January 8th of this year. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
Please stand. Excuse me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, let us please remember and keep in our prayers those serving as our first responders, our nation's armed forces, and especially our troops that are away from home. Thank you. Please be seated.
Roll call, Mrs. Bucci?
Here.
Mr. Deweese?
Here,
Mr. Leeds?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Here.
Mr. Chow?
Here.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Approval of minutes, please?
I'd like to make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of September 20th, 2022. They have been posted, distributed to council, or on file at the clerk's office. Easy for me to say. Please note that I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? With one abstention.
One abstention.
Thank you. Mayor Chow.
Thank you, Council President. I had received a email from Mr. Kirshner from the county with regards to county sharing any interest in expanding on the programs, and two of them, I think, something that I would recommend the city council that might want to look into it with Mr. Kirshner on the county. One that I know Mary had responded back to me was the data storage that they were looking into. And the second one that interests my thoughts was sound ordinance. Sound ordinance, in my experience, is a very tricky thing because we have to have someone that is fully certified every year. You know, sometimes, you know, a lot of the sounds occur late at night when maybe that sound ordinance certified person may not be around. But this is something that I would encourage maybe city council to look into, if that, with your permission, Council President, and with council members, if there's no objections, I could write a letter to Mr. Kirshner and express our interest in joining with other municipalities on this possibly shared services that the county would be looking for grants.
What was was it a noise meter or something?
Meters.
The
it's
meters.
noise meters?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we can start,
Okay.
yeah, pursue that
Great.
to see if it's something we,
Okay,
I know that always becomes another one of those difficult things to enforce. But
Yes,
with the
yes.
meters,
yes. The other one, I was just making reference to Mr. Saganas when he had appeared before the planning board for an issue with regards to boundary lines, which he was granted by the planning board. And part of the restructuring of the boundary lines of his property that's located on Tilton and New Road, there is a strip of property that belongs to the city. It's about a 5-foot wide alley. And of course, we would have no use, or anyone would have any use for the 5-foot alley. So he, by doing this, when he came before the planning board and restructuring his boundaries, he said that his intention would be coming before the city council to see if there was any interest in selling the property. But you know, that was something he's going to bring forth before the city council. But I wanted everyone to be aware of that. I want to also.
Where's that land? Tilton and New?
No, it's, you know, where where his golf putt-putt was and all that, he's restructuring that, so, because it's really an odd cut on some of the property
Oh,
there.
joining that?
Yeah.
He wants to buy it from the city?
Yes, the alley.
Didn't we vacate that, Chris?
I've seen there, is that near Swift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen
It's near Swift too, but I don't know anything about if we vacated it.
Let's look into that.
Yes.
I think we may have addressed it maybe
Okay.
8 years ago, 5 years ago, seems like forever. We'll look into it, and if it's, you know, if it's something that the city does in fact still own, the city wants to go ahead and try to move that, we can go down the road
Right.
of public sale.
I too want to thank on the trunk or treat. That was a very great affair. I had fun. I want to thank Shannon and Mary for all the work they've done, and also Chief Newman and the firemen, or excuse me, policemen who were patrolling the area there. They did an outstanding job there. So thank you very much for your help, and I look forward to it next year for more participants. I mean, it's unbelievable, 800 kids coming by through there. That's a
Wow.
lot of candy to give out. The last thing I just want to report is that Chief Newman reported to me that this week was a successful completion of 2 of the 3 applicants for chief position for the testing. The other applicant, we have made accommodations because he's on vacation, but he will be taking that portion of the test. And this Wednesday, right, Chief, will be I'm sorry, what? Tomorrow, thank you, will be the oral examination. And will all 3 of them be able to do that? Very good. And once that is completed and I receive the scores, then our city administrator, Mary, myself, and the council president will be on the police committee to present our questions in interviews with the three candidates. Scoring will be completed, and hopefully I can come back at city council, at least maybe hopefully in the end of the month, make my recommendation for council to consider, and then have that individual as an interim to assist, or I should say, work with Chief Newman to acclimate him with and give him some experience of what it's like being a chief, and then moving forward from there. So that's my game plan, and hopefully we'll be okay. That's the end of my report. Mr. President, if council has any questions? Okay. Oh, one other thing, we do have an executive session, and I do like to thank Council President for reposting, and that is Resolution 188, 2022. With your permission, Council President, I would like to have our Chief of Police also in that executive session to
Absolutely.
give his input on this.
Certainly,
Thank you very much.
give you valuable information. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Engineers report. Rami?
Thank you, Council President. I prepared my report last week. Since then, the New Jersey American Water Company finished all the paving for Shepherd Circle West, Herbert Drive, and yesterday they finished those streets. They did a good job. And there's a couple of minor punch list items they were to handle. There's one drainage. Actually, they handled some of the drainage issues that existed on Shepherd Circle. They were able to fix some of the areas, so the residents were happy. They were very excited that it's done now. It's brand new road. Actually, it looks really good. Thank you. As what we did with Hensley, we started milling and we found out there's only there's an inch of paving. So I stopped and said, don't mill, let's just scratch it and add more paving on top. So now that road has about 3.5 inches of paving. So it's gonna be there for a while, and they did the job of that. So that's done. For our local road program, they finished all the driveways. There's a few more punch list items they need to address, and this project should be completed by the end of the month, so we can move forward with that. We can close it out. We are also, I have a resolution tonight to move forward with the slip lining. Just want to run you the usage for our sewage, what we're generating from the sewage.
Yes.
Based on our sister municipalities, for the first 9 months of the year, everybody's averaging about 65% of the allocated flows. City of Northfield is averaging 56.8%. We are way less than everybody else. So the slip lining we did last year is successful. We can see the results of it now. So when we move with the additional line, we're looking to do, originally we spoke about deep sewer line and a force main. I had a meeting with a couple contractors to discuss the force main. That would be very labor intense. And I spoke with Quinn, at this point, we're gonna put this on the back burner, maybe check either slip lining or replacement at that point. We have to see which one's cheaper. But we are looking to slip line, this sewer main that goes under the bay,
Mhm.
Drive. 3 years ago, we had a break and we had an emergency fix, was about $60,000+. So we don't want that to happen at this point. So we want to slip line all the sewer line that goes under the marsh and Bay Drive all the way to Rosedale Pump Station. And spoke with Quinn, he had a couple more areas he had concerns, the deep sewer line, so we're gonna propose to split line all those. So we're anticipating to spend about $190,000 to do the work. For my portion of the services, for the time being, just to get the contract, I already have my documents from the last time, so I just need to update my documents with maps and costs, so we can go out to bid. So there's a resolution for me to do the work at this point, and after we get the bids back, then we'll see what we want to do with the inspection services. At this point, this is what I propose to do. With council's permission, let me go out to put the package out and put it out to bids.
And when they're doing this, the function of the slip lining, is there ability to start using that as a
It's a different-
opportunity to do some of the mapping?
It's a different system.
It's sewer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
We're talking still.
Never mind.
We-
I had an idea, I thought it would work. Don't we want to map that too? No,
That's all right.
never
You're an
mind.
accountant.
I'll give you a break.
Yeah, I'll stick to that county.
Stay
Stick
in
to
your
the
lane,
numbers.
Chris, stay in your lane.
Stay on my water line?
The other thing is our project for, both, we are working with the state trying to get, the concurrence to go out to bid. We submitted the documents with PMRS, which was kind of, really difficult to figure it out. It's supposedly an easy way for us to communicate. We had some, they came back with a couple of comments, we did the changes, we submitted back, and I confirmed that they received, revised specs and plans, and hopefully we get the concurrence from them within a week, so we can go out to bid on that project.
Great.
That's my report.
Any questions? Thank you, Ron. Okay, we'll open this meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any topic may do so at this time. We ask that you observe a 5-minute limit per speaker, and as you come up, please state your name and address for the record.
Anyone in Zoom wishing to speak, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. No one in Zoom?
Okay, thank you. With that, the public session is now closed. May I have a motion for the consent agenda for 189 and 191 through 194?
I'd like to make the, motion for consent agenda for resolutions 189, 2022, through and including 194, 2022.
Oh,
Sec-
can we add that?
Yeah, we can do one.
Oh.
And one, yeah.
Okay,
You sent it to a different one, so that's why I didn't get it.
yes.
So are we gonna add 196?
Could you please?
To the consent agenda, yeah.
Okay, let's amend that to 189, 2022, through 194, 2022, and 196, 2022 to the consent agenda.
Second.
No, we can't do, 190, 190's not in. And is there any, before we go forward, before we try this one more time, is there any of those that anyone would like pulled from the consent agenda?
I just have a question.
Yes,
Is 196 related to 188?
Yes.
yes, they're, 196 is is the executive session, 188 is the vote after,
Okay, I'm good.
okay?
Council President, on Resolution 191, the seating,
Yes, sir.
this is my question. Two questions. Number one, will there be any accommodations or spacing to allow for handicap? Like putting in a wheelchair, or are we just gonna put them straight all the way across?
Design will be ADA compliant.
Okay. Second question is, what are we gonna be doing with these wonderful, heavy seats or seating?
Local public contract law requires that if the council decides that they are no longer needed for public use, you would do a resolution to certify that, and then we would either sell them or,
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
I
think we
don't
can-
hate to see them go to waste, that's all.
I don't think we can repurpose them here within the city, so we
No,
would
no,
sell
no,
them.
no, no. I'm just a little concerned that, question, what we're going to do. They're,
I thought we were putting them in your office.
We'll store them in there in the meantime.
I'll find some space, Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Okay,
Want that again?
yes, sir, please.
All right. Make nomination to approve resolutions by consent agenda 189, 2022, 191, 2022, through 194, 2022, and 196, 2022.
Second. Sorry about that. That was so long, I forgot to say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, may I have the necessary motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the necessary motion to approve the consent agenda. Resolution 189, 2022, 191, 2022, through 194, 2022, and 196, 2022.
Second.
Roll call. I didn't read-
Mrs. Bucci,
Yes.
I didn't read my thing. Consent
you can read at the end, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese? Mr. Deweese? Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Okay. All the matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and having been reviewed by council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed by the from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and if so removed, will be treated as a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certificate of availability of funds. One of the resolutions here was an executive session. The executive session of the council will be held at the end of the meeting, and we'll come back into public session and make comment for the record after the executive session has concluded. Any vote made on subject discussed will be made in public. Thank you. Okay. I guess at this time, I may have a motion to adjourn to the consent.
Payment bills.
Oh, we're going to do payment bills first? Payment of bills, please.
Motion for the payment of bills in the amount of $1,118,631.96.
Second?
Roll call.
Yes.
Mrs. Bucci?
Yes?
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Abstain.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion copies for the payment, motion copies. Motion carries for payment of bills with the abstention of Councilman Leeds noted.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the meeting, or may I have meeting notices, please?
Sure. Meeting notices that the next city council meeting's October 25th, 2022 at 6 PM is the work session, regular session immediately following. There's also an economic development commission meeting on October 19th, 2022 at 7 PM in City Hall.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We will be going into executive session, so I ask everyone to leave the room, and then if you stick around, we can call you back in after that. We'll ask Chief Newman to please join us for the executive session. You're relieved of duty, Ron.
For the young lady from mainland, you're welcome to stay and come back, but we can't predict how long it's going to take. So if you would like to, and is it okay if she just goes now?
Yeah.
If you would like to have this be the end of your recording, it's absolutely fine with the council. However, if you want to stay and wait and resume, it's fine as well. It's up to you.
I'm not sure I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do.
I can tell you it's okay if you end the recording and go.
Typically, they leave.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Thank you.
yep.
That's what you were looking for.
Okay. All right, so for those participating by Zoom, and for those who are still in council chambers, the executive session is Resolution 196 of 2022, which was previously authorized under the consent agenda. This is a resolution providing for an executive session not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12B8, specifically regarding personnel matters. For those participating by Zoom, once the executive session begins, council will remain in council chambers, but I will be pausing the audio and video portions of this meeting. When the executive session has concluded, the audio and video will be resumed, and a statement will be made for the record, and any vote that the council makes will occur after that point, once we have resumed the public comment, the public portion of the meeting. We are required by law to set forth as much information as possible about the subject matter to be discussed, as well as disclose for the public the amount of time that they can expect to elapse before the non-public minutes can be disclosed. And for that, Chief, could you open those doors real quick? For that, I will defer to the solicitor, and then once the solicitor finishes that comment, then we can close the doors.
Thank you, Mary. As authorized by Resolution 196-2022, at this time, the council for the city of Northfield will enter into an executive session not open to the general public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Matters to be discussed are personnel matters, specifically the potential promotion of Brandon Garofalo to the position of police officer. Council will keep minutes of the executive session as required by law, which will be approved by the council and made promptly available for public inspection when required and permitted by law. It's my understanding that Mr. Garofalo has been rights noticed. At this time, the time frame for the release of the minutes is unknown. It's unknown
known as to whether any official action will be taken. We will return to the open record for a statement for the record. And that's it. And I just remind council that Resolution 188-2022 was never moved or seconded in the last meeting, so that will be required if and when council decides to move on Resolution 188 after executive.
Okay. You can close, Chief, thank you.
Oh,
We were closer.
yeah, we could have
Mean
done
to do
that,
that, Dan?
Tom.
I'm just coming out here because it's air.
Oh, it got so hot in here, isn't it?
A little warm.
A little.
Tom, do you have a permit for that banner flag?
Wavy man.
Mr. Pacetta?
Thank you. The city council for the city of Northfield has concluded its executive session authorized by Resolution 196, 2022, which was a session not open to the public in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Matter discussed was an issue of personnel, specifically the promotion of Brandon Garofalo to the position of police officer. Council did keep minutes of the executive session as required by law, which will be approved by the council and made available for public inspection when required and permitted by law. It is my understanding that the council may be considering official action by way of Resolution 188-2022, which I remind you has not been moved or seconded in the past. And with that, I turn it back over to Council President.
Thank you, Solicitor Facenda. Oh, do we need to do a roll call?
Somebody needs a motion second.
Oh, we,
You want no.
to come back in? Okay. Now a motion for resolution, approval of Resolution 188.
Make a necessary motion to adopt resolution 188-2022.
Second?
Roll call?
Mrs. Bucci?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mr. Leeds?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz? Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of Resolution 188 of 2022.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you very
Thank
members
you
of
all.
council.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Bring it in.
Brandon still out
I don't know.
here? Chief?